Refuge Youth. So today I started this book, and this might look a little bit familiar to some of you. A few weeks ago, David, the author of this book, actually came to Refuge and got to share with us a little bit of his heart, give a sermon. Super good, super great guy. And he left a bunch of the copies for us. So I got to start reading this today, and it just challenged my heart a little bit. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you guys. So as I was reading this, my mind kept going back to one story in the Bible, just one I kept hearing over and over and over again. And you guys have probably heard of it. It's told a lot in Sunday school, churches, but it is the Good Samaritan. And we've talked about this in the past, but when you're talking about being a neighbor to someone, it really rings true, that parable that Jesus told. It just stood out to me a lot. So I'm sure most of you have heard the story by now, or if you haven't and just want to look it up, you can find it in Luke chapter 10, starting in verse 25. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Go ahead and feel free to look it up if you'd like. I'm just going to paraphrase through the whole thing. But essentially, a teacher of the law stood up to test Jesus and asked him, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus' response is, "What does the law say? How do you read it? What do you think it is?" So he answers, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus says, "Yeah, that's right. Do these and you will live." And the guy, probably wanting to be a little bit sneaky, responds and says, "And who is my neighbor?" And that, my friends, is the question we're going to answer today. So Jesus tells us the story of the Good Samaritan. It's about a man who's traveling on a road and out of nowhere gets jumped by some thieves. They beat him up, they take his stuff, everything, they just leave him for dead on the side of the road. And this guy comes into contact with 3 people total. The first is a priest, the second is a Levite, and the third is a Samaritan. So this man was Jewish, and the Levite and the priest were actually leaders in the church of the Jewish people, and they end up just walking right by this dude. They see him on the side of the road, they say he's probably dirty, he's probably gonna die anyways, why bother? They just keep on moving. But the third guy, Samaritan, he stops, picks the man up, takes him to the nearest inn, treats his wounds, pays for his night, pays for his food, tells the innkeeper, "Take care of him, I'll cover everything." So at the end of the parable, Jesus asked the man who asked him the question originally, "Who do you think was the neighbor of the man who got beaten up in the story?" And hearing this, I was like, okay, got to think about this. So I thought about it some more, realized it's probably not a trick question. So I was like, yeah, it's the Samaritan, right? It's the guy who actually helped him out. And the teacher of the law who had questioned Jesus, he says these words that I think are really powerful. He says, "The one who had mercy on him." And Jesus looks this man dead in the eyes, as calm as can be, and says, "Go and do the same." So hearing that story and the way Jesus told it should show us exactly how we're supposed to love our neighbors. But it doesn't quite answer the question, who is my neighbor? So one key piece of information that I kind of left out of the story when I was telling it earlier is that Samaritans and Jews did not get along whatsoever back in the day. The Samaritans and the Jews would actually go to war over certain things. They believed just different things. There's a lot of bad blood there. They were not friends. And for a Samaritan to stop and care for this Jew who got beaten up and left on the side of the road, you just didn't see that happen. And Jesus knew this. He intentionally said this because the man asked him, "And who is my neighbor?" He was probably thinking of a certain person or a certain type of person that he just didn't like or didn't think he could get along with, right? So Jesus tells this story, and the person who is the hero of the story would have been the enemy, would have been someone that he just didn't like, he just didn't get along with, someone that he never would have considered to be his neighbor. And this is the guy who does the right thing, who treats the robbed man as his neighbor. He does it right. And Jesus does this to disarm any beliefs that we might have of anyone not being our neighbor. The answer is everyone. Anyone who is your enemy, anyone you don't like, you just don't get along with. Jesus says it doesn't matter. We're supposed to love everyone, regardless of who you are, where you come from. Doesn't matter. We're supposed to love everyone. So, with all that in mind, I know this video kind of went everywhere, jumped all around the church. We're figuring this out. It's okay. The thing that I want to leave you with, the thought that I think is the most important and the biggest takeaway from this, I want to challenge you, just like Jesus challenged the man, looking him dead in the eyes. Go and do the same. Love your neighbors. See you guys next time.